We are going to read Chapter 5 of The Body of Christopher Creed. I got into the cafeteria and spotted Alex, Renee, and Leandra waving me over. Leandra had the kind of face that lit up when she smiled, all framed with long, shiny red hair. She could spin heads. I smiled back. Alex and Renee looked mad. "Did you forget what you have in your pocket?" Alex demanded, as I plopped down beside Leandra. "Where have you been?" My hand went to my sweater pocket, and I felt a piece of paper folded in there, the note from Creed. We had decided we were going to show it to Leandra and Renee. I guessed Alex figured this was the most important thing in the universe. "Your favorite breakfast," Leandra handed me a bag of French fries, bouncing a little in her seat. She was always thinking up nice things to do like that. "Thanks." I took the fries gladly and decided to let fly with the truth because some gossip hag would probably tell one of them they saw us. "Allie, she's having a problem. She just needed to dump." "Boy problems," Renee said with a grin, and I thought that was mean. It must have shown in my face because she said, "I'm sorry for her, okay? I know her folks are going through a divorce and all, but nobody told her to handle her life the way she's handling her life." "Yeah, not our problem," I shrugged. She came back at me with equal sarcasm. "Once in a while, if you didn't see everybody's side and everything, it would be okay, Victor. I promise." Victor is my real name, and Renee is the only person who ever called me that, and only when I was pissing her off. "I don't see everybody's side and everything," I argued. "Didn't I agree with you on everything you said about Nathan Leeds last week at this very table?" "I just broke up with Nathan Leeds 3 weeks ago," she smirked. "To not agree with a girl about someone she's just broken up with is totally heartless. Besides, all I said was that he was a dipshit's dork-faced liar who cheated on me, smells, and will never break 1,000 on his SAT. What's not to agree with?" "Whatever. Remind me never to get on your bad side," I laughed. Just a few weeks earlier, Nathan Leeds had been her swoon bag love machine. She just got this twitch that she wanted Alex instead. I thought of mentioning to Renee that Alex needed to come to band practice more often, but decided I didn't feel like tangling with her. I spread the note out on the table. Then Leandra and Renee were whispering, their lips moving, like they were trying to absorb every word. I watched Leandra's long reddish hair shine as it fell over one shoulder. Leandra's long reddish hair shine as it fell over one shoulder and dangled almost to her lap. She kind of gasped and looked at me for a moment as my own name came out of her mouth. She had reached the part where he said he was jealous of me. I laced my fingers through hers, knowing she would understand. How that hit me. If he had anything to be jealous about, really, it was her, I thought. When we walked down the halls together, people would stare at Leandra, and then at me like I was the luckiest person in the world. And people really liked her, even if she wasn't a huge brain like Renee. I think Renee had read the letter twice by the time Leandra got to the bottom. "Funny," Leandra murmured finally. "Sure looks like he was thinking about suicide, but it never actually says he's going to commit suicide." I looked at how Creed had put it. "I only wish to be gone. Therefore, I am." "But look at this," Renee pointed to the earlier part of the note, before our names were listed. "I know that people wish I were dead, and at this moment in time I see no alternative but to accommodate them in this wish." "That's suicide," Renee said flatly. "That's definitely suicide." "Yeah, but where is he?" Alex asked nervously, looking over his shoulder to see if anyone might put their eyes on this note. He turned back and almost whispered, "Where's the body?" "I don't know," Renee mumbled, but he was still trying to get attention, like always. Look at the things he's saying. Life and luck and liberty. She curled her lip in disgust. What a crock. I'm surprised he saw himself with so much truth. He always wore that grin from hell. I would have bet he grinned when he slept. "He probably did," Alex said with a smirk. I always figured he never was able to face up to how bad his life really was. Denial, my dad calls it. He lived in a state of chronic denial. Even if you were yelling at Creed, that grin stayed plastered from ear to ear. It was like he refused to believe you were yelling. He wouldn't stop grinning until somebody hit him. Then he went totally depressive. I had seen him in a heap on the floor, wailing, after one of the Boones hit him. I thought denial was an okay word. "Are we really positive he wrote this. Leandra stared at the paper, looking confused. Alex shrugged. Mr. Ames gets the note, and boom, the kid is missing. Who else would have written it? Leandra's accent came on very thick when she was thinking too hard to cover it up. And it was thick right then. It does sound just like him, but like y'all just said, Chris never saw the truth about himself. It almost sounds like the way somebody else would describe his life. You're saying that somebody else killed him and wrote the note to make it look like suicide? Renee said to clear us up. She spat it out like she was reciting a weather report. She folded her arms across her chest coolly and looked around the cafeteria. So who's your suspect? I'd say there are a few in here. I thought that was vicious, but watched as Leandra rolled her eyes sideways in a suspicious way. We followed them and then looked back at the center of the table. A group of Boones were sitting where she had just looked. Bo Richardson was right in the middle of them. Excuse me. Bo Richardson? The words came out of Alex's mouth like he was a ventriloquist. The only time his lips moved was on the B. He did a whole line of ventriloquism, grinning like a jack-o'-lantern. I don't want to look like in saying his name because he's at the next table. Bo Richardson was a big, tough Boone with enormous brown eyes that made him look insane. If he caught you staring at him, he would mouth off at you sometimes, depending on his mood. He bragged into the gossip channels that he had slashed more than 1,000 tires last year, that we figured it was probably about 20, because he was also known for lying, exaggerating his conquests. Also, he would fight people, which is why he showed up in the principal's office a lot. Well, yeah, Leander breathed, while we all just sat there dumbfounded. Maybe one of those guys could have done it. They could use some scrubbing up, Alex smirked. A couple of them, but Sean Mathers especially, really did have bad skin, and they dressed way different than us. Our clothes were kind of loose, and theirs were all skin tight, like they had to show off their muscles. All these little differences used to seem so important, but now I wanted to figure out this note. I could see I wasn't about to get a word in edgewise. By the way, Alex was leaning forward and putting his hands up like, stop. No. Forget the personal hygiene. That's nothing compared to the cars. The girls laughed. That kept Alex rolling. Ooh, gold fender, blue rusted door, engine of a bus. Tell me, why do they love to make noise? Do they actually think that a souped-up old car with no muffler is, like, sexy or something? They think of no muffler the way we think of a Lexus. Leandra giggled and smacked her hand up to her mouth. She sighed. Y'all are a bad influence on me. See how I'm gossiping? Every morning I make a deal with myself that I'm not going to talk evil about people. Somehow I never get past third period. I laughed because it was true. Leandra's heart was in the right place, but her mouth could take off like it had a life of its own sometimes. By third period, she was just getting started some days. Don't get Pentecostal on us before noon, Renee kicked her under the table. Ouch, Leandra muttered, moving her legs away. Don't be making fun of me. What are you supposed to say about Bo Richardson? Renee demanded. That he's like Captain Deodorant with his crew of Zest boys? Leandra had to pull her lips out into her palm to keep them from spreading outward. Alex let out a shameless blast. He wasn't Pentecostal. How'd we get on this subject, I asked. We were talking about what happened to Creed, and all of a sudden it's who drives a souped-up old bomb car? I thought we were talking about murder, Alex said, and Leandra was telling us who she thought did it. Wait, reality check. I had thought of something. Tell me what Boone could write that note. I wish to understand life and luck and liberty, defects I've been cursed with, Renee smirked. Maybe it was Bo and Sean Mathers and Dallas Everett. 3 Boone brains equals 1 normal brain. God, remind me never to get on your bad side, I said again, shivering. Some thought passed through my head that I wished I had stayed outside with Allie. I mean, it's not like I'm some saint who had never ripped on the Boones. And I had my share of fun. I came into school the first day of freshman year, took one look at them and thought, what planet did these people drop from? But now this kid was in the black hole and none of my friends seemed to care. Even Leandra, I thought. She wasn't concerned about Chris. She was concerned about whether or not she was gossiping. It was all about her. And then scoping out Boones and pointing the finger. And they were scoping out Boones and pointing the finger. I mean, they were talking about a murder here. And for evidence, they were bringing up zits, souped-up cars, and people smelling bad. I didn't feel like telling them I was going to Allie's. I hoped her new boyfriend was a college dude. College dude might be old enough not to want to whack everybody verbally or make jokes about Creed. My own friends were getting on my nerves some. And that concludes chapter 5 of The Body of Christopher Creed. Thanks for listening.